I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, April the 7th, brought to you in part by Zoetis. Signs of hope to start the week out, and we really couldn't have gotten any further down, so we just either had to go up or sideways because I tell you, moods were about as bad as they could get to end the week last week, and we saw some signs that maybe the world's not coming to an end. We're not positive yet, but not all your cattle futures were down the limit. Your April spot live cattle was down the limit, and but the rest of them faded off and then were quite a bit higher as you went out front. Your feeder cattle futures were quite a bit higher all the way through all your traded months, and there was a little activity in the cash market in place, especially up in the Midwest on feeder cattle, so that was pretty good. We got a few news reports that maybe the increase in cases of coronavirus have started to level out a little bit. Maybe we're nearing the peak or the climax of the outbreak of this terrible virus that has crippled our country and crippled our economy and caused so many people so much pain and misery and just having to stay shut up, and that's not the way we were built. But as we move in, we saw some things that might help us a little bit. Your stock market was up big on Monday. That always helps to start out the week. We did have something kind of interesting on Facebook Live on Monday night. Bill Bullard with RCAF was on there. I don't know how many of you guys watched it. I watched it. It was very interesting. Bill Bullard did a very good job, as usual and as always, of giving a lot of history about how we've gotten to where we're at now with a broken market system in our cattle markets, and he's very well versed and very well spoken on the subject. I can only wish to get that well versed at some time in my career, but he knows a lot of things, about a lot of different areas and avenues of the cattle business, and he did a good job of talking about them. Of course, he mentioned the main ones. The one that I preach about so much is the lack of cash trade, and they, with RCAF and with Bill Bullard's thoughts, they're a little more aggressive than the avenue that we're pushing, that I'm pushing with several groups and several people I've been working towards, with 30% mandated minimum negotiated cash volume. They're asking for majority. You wonder why I don't think that we need to go that far. Well, I think it'd be fantastic if we could go that far. But we've got our big corporate feeders, and they're completely tied in. Some of them, in some cases, they bought the feedlots from your corporate packers, and they're tied in with formula deals, and they are so powerful that we're not going to be able to get things done if we don't find a place to let them live too. So they're going to take probably 60%, and we're looking for 30%. That gives a little bit in there to kind of wash around and decide what they want to do, and hopefully we'll get more cash trade as that goes on if we can get that deal pushed through. I just think if we try to get the majority, 50% or more, then we're going to get stopped cold, and I'm not interested in doing that. But he talked about the lack of cash trade. Negotiated cash trade is a big problem, which we know that. Of course, he talked about mandatory country of origin labeling. That's their main stump speech there, and they talked about that. And he did make some more sense about that, kind of cleaned up the issue with the World Trade Organization, talked about how they can still get mandatory country of origin labeling in spite of being against WTO rules, and talked all about how we can still get that done and not step on their toes too much. And then he talked a lot about the antitrust laws that the packers have been breaking for years, and the lack of packers and stockyards rules enforcement. That I thought it was great. They did a good job talking. It's continuing to keep people aware of what's going on, get them excited about what's going on. But instead of just talking, when we get to the point where we can do something, where we're ready to push something forward, we need to do it. We can't just say we got a problem. We've got to give answers to that problem. Of course, Bill took the opportunity to dig at some of the other cattlemen's associations. That's what they do. He talked about kind of put a dig in on the checkoff deal, which a lot of us do. I like to do that too because it just seems like it's a broken system also. But for the most part, I tell you, it was a very educational talk. And every time I looked up, there was at least 800 people watching. There may have been other people watching in other forums, but it was a pretty good deal. And those of you that watched it are probably better off for it. But I want to talk about your bailout. The Federal Reserve says they are going to back out the Payment Protection Program, which includes cattlemen. Supposedly, there's about $9 million. To help cattle people that are struggling through this coronavirus deal there. And if the Federal Reserve is going to back that up, that's a good deal. You guys, it's going to be a first come, first served deal, so you guys need to get busy. And I'm not exactly sure how you go. I'm sure the FSA office would know how to do it, and I'm sure you guys that row crop and are familiar with those cheese checks are going to be the first ones to get in line for the livestock payments too. But you guys get in there and get your claims filed for that payment protection program. I want to talk about DV Auctions production sale report. I've been kind of telling you guys that over the last several weeks as we're in the high point of our production sale season. But we had production sales this past week, near 7,500 bids online with the DV Auction console there. Over 1,650 lots were actually sold through DV Auction in their online broadcast, and that amounted to near $7.5 million of purchases just this past week. On our video catalog, which a lot of guys like to go in there and shop for bulls and replacement stock there online, we've got 66 video catalogs running, 33,800 views on that video catalog, and 310,500 videos were played throughout the different sales that are logged on our DV Auction video catalog there. So we've got some big sales coming up this week. DHT Angus Ranch in Ava, Missouri, they're going to have an online embryo sale. It's going to be a timed sale. It's all day here on Tuesday. Starts at 8 a.m., runs till 8 p.m. You guys get on there and bid on stuff there. When it runs, when we have the sell-off there at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night, if you bid, it gives a little bit more time for the guy that was holding the bid to get back in. And likewise, if you guys have a bid that's on, but you have to pay attention to that when the sell-off starts at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night. But you want to support that sale. I'm going to be headed down to, I'm going to take my essential letter with me, and I'm going to head down to Fort Worth, Texas, and to the Wolf Cattle 32nd annual production sale there. That's going to be an online and phone bid only, so there won't be a crowd there. And just my luck, I get an all expenses paid trip to Fort Worth stockyards, and all the bars are closed and there's no people around. But that's kind of the way that goes. But look at the board for Monday. April live cattle futures down to $4.50 limit at 83.82. June down 55 cents at 80.30, and then you go on out from there 50 cents to $2.30 higher. So I told you guys there was some hope even on the board. April feeder cattle up $2.17 at 110.42. May was up $1.20 at 109.30, and all your out fronts from there on were up $2 to nearly $3. And so that's great. Your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region, 25,400 head is all. That's nothing. And you might think that your packers are going to be hungry coming in this week, and it's not looking like it because we've got so many plants that are running half-time. Some of your ones that are still open on both shifts or whatever they normally work are going to be backed off about 30%, but we have some major plants that have shut an entire shift down. they'll probably try to make a little more hay on one shift, but it's not looking good. They've had to spread the people out. They're having to wear masks, and just little things like that is going to slow down production, and we need that production. But 25,400 head, that compares with 89,500 the previous week and 69,400 the same week a year ago. But you look at the widespread, and of course you guys know why. It's just things have been changing so fast. But last week we had live sales of slaughter steers and heifers ranged from 105 to 122. Mostly 105 to 113, but there early last week I did have some come through for last week's trade at 122, but mostly at 112, but then down from there. But your weighted average live steer price for last week's trade was 111.08. That compares to 119.31 the previous week, so down a ton. Your dress sales 165 to 180. Mostly 175 to 180 with a weighted average dress steer price of 176.93, and that was well over $10 lower than the previous week, which was 188.88. But nationwide, your negotiated sales amounted to only 28,900 head, and that's kind of tough there. And 13,000 of those, over 13,000 of them, were for the 2 to 4 week delivery, so that kind of hurts too. Box beef cutout values, I normally don't give them starting out early in the week, but it's kind of interesting on Monday, and you know how volatile they have been, and they kind of spell a lot out. But choice cuts on Monday afternoon, $230.05, down 39 cents, so that's kind of nice that it wasn't crazy. Neither your choice or select were up or down as much as $1. So your select cuts were $215.03, down 81 cents. So you got a $15 choice select spread there. But the significant thing was 162 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings just on Monday's session there at near steady but slightly lower prices. But that's a good thing. We want to quit letting the packers gouge these guys when their shelves are bare and they absolutely have to have stuff, and then we don't want your buyers abandoning your packers altogether whenever they do have some product out there. So we've kind of seen a balance here to start the week at least. But your slaughter estimated to be on Monday 110,000, so yes, it's quite a bit lower, 7,000 lower than the previous week and 11,000 lower than the same week a year ago, but not completely stopped, but the change speeds are slowed quite a bit, and there's a few smaller packers that are completely shut down. But let's talk about your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index with DV Auction ended the day on Monday at 118.52, down another $2.42. You look at your steer tracker, which is your bunches of index cattle, the last 25 bunches of them at 115.21, so it's continuing to drift from there. But we're starting to see maybe a little bit of footing there too. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyards, 5,000 head there, and it was lower. We knew it was going to be lower because they didn't see the big drop off that your late week sales did last week. Your Thursday sales last week were a complete wreck. Earlier the week, last week, not so bad, but they kind of caught up with them. Feeder steers in Oklahoma City, $6 to $12 lower. Feeder heifers, $8 to $12 lower in a light test. Steer calves, $3 to $6 lower, and heifer calves not really well tested, but a sure lower undertone on there. But I did pick one individual quote from the Oklahoma National Stockyards with National Livestock Commission there, 178 head of 933-pound steers in Oklahoma City brings 105.10, and that's the market there. I didn't pick a high or low. That's the market on a big string. Joplin Regional Stockyards, Carthage, Missouri there, had a bigger run than Oklahoma City at 5,500 head. My buddy Rick Huffman, he called it $10 to $15 lower, so grouping all the calves and yearlings and everything pretty well together, and just a lot lower because they needed to make up the big losses that we saw late last week. But check out an individual quote out of Joplin. 70 head of 640-pound steers bring 151.25. That's pretty darn good. I tell you what, guys would have took that several weeks ago. And if you get the right kind of cattle in front of the right guys, and I'm sure those cattle had to have been in a grazing condition, they sell pretty darn good. Don't forget, Primetime Livestock Video is going to have a video sale Thursday the 16th, so that's next week. On Thursday they'll be having that primetime video, and you guys want to mark your calendars for that. But your big quote for Monday come out of Central Missouri, Callaway Livestock Center, Kingdom City, Missouri. Jack Harrison and company there, 52 head, 792 pound steers bring 121.35, and that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.